Accessing.
When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex. Presented by G2G Bars.
Don't touch that dial.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, welcome back. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The behind-the-scenes stuff is always the best.
Well,
is it?
Our conversation during the break would get both of us fired.
That's fine.
Maybe we shouldn't even say that over the air.
Oh no, it wasn't. It was not inappropriate in any way. It was a non-sports topic. That's why people are like, "Hey, man, we don't want to hear from you."
Well, let me say this: it wouldn't get us fired.
No.
Well, maybe it would, but it would be very controversial.
It's the same reason we don't talk about politics.
It'd be very controversial, but it would get a lot of run on Instagram or TikTok.
And then you'd be fired.
Yeah, but then I'd break off and start my own YouTube channel.
Hey, so here's my question.
That's a terrible plan. I'm going to stick with this. Let's move on to sports. I am an idiot.
Oh. All right, we've got let's get to this here, because if you miss any part of this, it's a fascinating conversation that Hans Scotty had with Justin Zanik today, and obviously people want answers about what, kind of the long term. By the way, the Jazz organization owes nothing in terms of an explanation, because that's what their job is, right? And that's the thing that they're good at, presumably, right? Justin Zanik, smart man. Danny Ainge, smart man.
Oh, yeah. Nothing but respect, and they have a great track record.
Front office knows what they're doing. The thing is though, in the short term, people are looking around going, so what's up? Like, what are we doing?
That's fair. Look, it's one thing to pull off and do these things behind the scenes and pull the strings and make it all work, but messaging is important here. I think Jazz fans need to understand what Justin Zanik and Danny Ainge are doing. Obviously, they don't need to know everything, and they're not going to be told everything, but you need to know, there needs to be some transparency, and you need to give fans enough that they understand that you're trying to do something special, and this is part of it. You need to have that communication with the fans, and this is why Justin Zanik coming on the radio today is so important, because it's a chance for him to do that and make that connection.
All right, so here it is. He was asked right off the bat about, I love this word, the assets that this Jazz team.
Did he use the word convey?
They've got assets. What are they going to do with it? Here's what he was asked, and here's what he responded to.
I think it's important, Hans, to think about it in this way: is kind of where is your team, or where do you believe your team is, in a championship competitive landscape. I think as we went into this season, we were expecting to see, and I think we have seen, development of our players. We're trying to develop a core that we can take forward and, like I said, open up a championship window. So for me, it's looking at the progress and timeline of our team, not so much if we win 4 in a row or lose 4 in a row. I mean, if you just take 20 or 30 game segments, well, there was one segment where we were 15-4, and there was another one that we were 7-16. So which one, if you're supposed to be like, which one are you? Well, we're both of those. And so when you get into the deadline and you kind of look at how you're stacking up with the rest of the league, and frankly, even on that hot run, and really saw some good things from Keontae's growth and Lowry continuing to show that he deserves to be at the top of the scouting report, and Taylor and Bryce, doing a good job in the G League. At the end of the day, we were still the 23rd ranked team out of 30 in the NBA. Whether we're 2 games out of a play-in or 2 games above or make a run for the playoffs, if there were opportunities, and this is what I love about the position that we're in, is that we looked at opportunities to be both buyers or sellers because of the flexibility. And if there was an opportunity during the deadline for us to add people to our core that were needle movers and fit our age timeline to move us forward, we would have absolutely done it. If you go back to what actually happened at the trade deadline and the players that were actually moved, I didn't feel that there was anybody there that we missed out on an opportunity or that we should have gotten. Those opportunities to propel the team forward in a short timeline just weren't there at the deadline. So we maintained our flexibility to keep ourselves waiting for those opportunities as we get into the draft and free agency and a de facto trade deadline again here at the end of the season and into the draft, to really just capitalize on those opportunities to continue to add to our core. So what we added to we didn't trade any of our core players. 2 of the 3 players that we traded at the deadline were free agents. They were good contributors. I wish them the best, but the return that we got were things that we simply had to do in terms of value. And those picks can turn into, and I've said this before, it's a lot like currency, and it's something that you can select the players and get them in a developmental timeline. You can use the picks in combination with other things to either move up and down in the draft or to acquire someone via trade. And those are the opportunities that we're going to be ready and willing to look at as we finish up the season here.
So this isn't necessarily about this last trade deadline, but just more philosophical in nature. But we all have kids, and sometimes if they get a little birthday money or something like that, and that money's just burning a hole in their pocket. They can't get rid of that fast enough. They want to spend it. When you have assets, you guys went through a spell of time where, you didn't, after the Conley trade, you didn't have a lot of assets to play with, and you were kind of strapped in terms of your flexibility. Now you have tons of flexibility. You have a war chest of picks and assets that you can work with. How hard is it, just, human nature, to stay patient and stay the course and keep that flexibility that you talk about so that you can go all in and not just spend it on a candy bar at a grocery store just because you have a few extra bucks in your pocket?
Well, the analogy is very appropriate, Scotty, especially I have 3 teenage kids, so that one hits home. But sure, I mean, all of us, from coach to Ryan to Danny to our entire staff, we all want to win. No one likes losing here, and what we're trying to do is be the development of our team to become a championship caliber team. So the patience is to make sure that any moves that we're using to use these assets is in that goal. It's not a short-term goal of make the play in, don't make the play in, keep our pick, convey our pick. Any transactions that we make are with the mind that, with the goal in mind is, does this make us or give us a better opportunity to become championship caliber for a long time, not just to win now because losing sucks. So part of that, of being patient, is really throwing our coaching staff's considerable talent and teaching acumen into the development of our players. I think Will and his staff has done an outstanding job of that. And development isn't linear. You see, development is different paths for different players, and I think Will has done a great job of seeing what those paths are appropriate for our players. But the development of our players, and most people think about that as like Keontae and Taylor and Bryce and a draft pick down the road, but it's also Lauri Markkanen's development. I think there's still a ceiling there. It's Jordan Clarkson's development from an off-the-bench scorer to an off-the-bench all-around scorer and playmaker. It's people figuring out their roles and how to play with who and playing in games that we do want to win. I want Will and his coaching staff going in every game trying to win the game. Sometimes, we've had a little bit of an injury bug here lately to some of our guys, so you're going to see some lineups here in the next couple games that aren't our normal lineups, but they're also opportunities for us to see what these guys are and can they be part of a championship competitive core.
Justin, I want to send a congratulations to you guys, you and your staff, because turning the expiring contract to Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji into what I believe was the only first-round pick that was moved at the deadline. And
It was the only pick moved at the deadline that didn't require taking on money to do so.
Yeah. And then also grabbing an early second-rounder, which should probably present 31 or 32, if I was reading that right.
Correct.
Did you, at the time of those moves and those trades, did you believe that your top 10 protected pick would convey? And where are you with the belief of that conveyance and where the team stands and what you'll do with that pick?
So I think the way we look at it, Hans, is not, I can get these late, basically the equivalent of 2 late first-round picks this year because we will or we won't have our pick. What we look at it is we had value for each and every one of the players that we traded. If those deals didn't come through, I would have been very, very happy to keep Kelly and keep Simone and keep Ochai and continue their development path, and whether they, continued with us or not. So there's sort of a bar that you set when teams express interest in any number of your players, and that bar was well exceeded in each of those 2 deals. So like I said before, with draft picks, they become currency. So whether we end up having our pick or we don't have our pick, we've just added 2 more that add to our ability to move around or talk about other deals, again, with the first and only goal in mind is to add players or assets that help us with building a championship core.
I think you go back to, and you mentioned the development of Will Hardy and his staff and being able to, develop the skill set of players. And I'm not gonna lie, there were moments early with Fontecchio. I'm like, I don't know if this dude is going to be a long-term NBA player. And then by the time he gets to trade deadline, he's part of a trade where you're able to get assets. And I think a lot of that is due to the development of Will Hardy and this staff and what they were able to do for him, because he turned into being a really good quality NBA player. How much do you attribute that to that staff and what they were able to do and work with him? And how much confidence does that give you as you continue to bring in new guys and younger players and their ability to develop them as well?
Yeah, it gives us absolute confidence, Scotty. I give the coaching staff a ton of credit. Obviously give credit to Simone as well, because he came in here and, the profile of players that we look at, no matter where their age is guys that want to work hard or high character guys, have positional size and length and has some shooting ability. In Simone's case, I think the adjustment period, the staff did a great job of helping Simone get used to new rules, a new league, and sometimes that takes international players a little bit more time. And then through the coaching staff's teaching and work and Simone responding to it, he's turned himself into a rotational player. And you've seen a guy who's 27, about to be 28 years, or he's 28 now, who's actually really improved. A lot of people assume, as I said before, that development happens, at an early age. And, since my time here with the Jazz, this is year 11 in the NBA, 10 here. I mean, I think there's multiple examples of players, obviously young players, developing into the best parts that they can be, and we certainly hope that for Keontae and Taylor and Walker. But you've seen development of guys in their early mid-20s or even late 20s, take another leap. I'm so happy for Colin Sexton this year. He's turned himself into a top 50 player with his efficiency, and Larry Markkinen, becoming most improved and an all-star, and a fringe all-NBA guy, and Simone. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's a credit to our coaching staff for their ability to teach and develop, which I think is a huge part of how we build our team going forward.
Well, and with that said, the way you build your team and the draft picks that you guys have been able to compile, when you drafted last year, I didn't expect to see all 3 first-rounders taken, and I certainly didn't expect after they were taken that they would all stay and be developed. And I think that shows sign and faith, and then watching their development has been fantastic. But that's also got to play into what you guys have done with stockpiling so many first-round draft picks, probably giving you confidence that you can pick maybe even a down draft too, Justin, and have guys out there that can get some production.
Yeah, you'll read a bunch of reports, and I know you guys will start doing some work as we get closer to the draft, and you'll see reports of like this is a quote-unquote bad draft. There's never a bad draft. There's always good players. I think this draft, when people say that, what they're really trying to say is there isn't a lot of obvious things at the beginning, so you have to project and make bets on qualities that you think will fit your team now or going forward, or identify early and try to move up or down to acquire people that you particularly like, rather, even if it's only a few players in a group. The last time it was called a quote-unquote bad draft was 2013. And, I think there are three. I mean, all of them are still playing, but there are 3 Hall of Famers in that draft, none of them going higher than 10. C.J. McCollum's a borderline Hall of Famer. Giannis is a first ballot Hall of Famer at 15, and Rudy Gobert is a first ballot Hall of Famer at 27th pick. And that was a bad draft, apparently. So if there are 3 fringe or lock-solid Hall of Fame players in the 2024 draft, our job is to go find them and identify them, even if it's not obvious.
Utah Jazz General Manager Justin Zanik, kind enough to join us here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. What is your, I'm knee-deep in college basketball right now with conference tournaments coming up next week and the NCAA tournament. How much can an individual performance in a conference tournament or a run in the NCAA tournament? I remember Kevin O'Connor talking about how much he admired Gordon Hayward and that run that Butler went on, and that may have been one of the reasons why the Jazz leaned towards him. How much can those things influence you in your decision-making process in the upcoming NBA draft?
I mean, I think, look, I'm going to be glued to the TV, and our staff is going to be at varying different games here, obviously with the conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament, much like you, Scotty. I think it's definitely a factor, especially when you see, look, these guys are, by the time they get to the conference tournament, they played about 30, 35 games. So just having 1 or 2 good games, like, that factors into it. But if you see guys play, high stakes competition against really good competition, and they meet the moment, and that adds to an already solid resume, I think it helps. I think it adds context. I think it gives an insight when you get to see guys play in big games and how they do. But I don't think any judgment of it, whether they play good or they play bad, is final. I think it's just one part in an overall body of work. I think last year was a good example, and there are a few this year without getting into any names, but last year you saw the NCAA landscape has completely changed, Scotty. I know you've seen it with college football and college basketball with NIL and things like that. I remember last year in the draft, we thought that there were a number of players who, for whatever reason, you can say they didn't pick the right school or it wasn't the right fit, that they really struggled. High-profile kids that were highly rated coming into college. And the goal is to find the context. I mean, you can't just label a kid based on 20, 30 games if it, depending on the coach, depending on the system, depending on their own development, figuring things out. So the high school stuff, we've been watching a lot of these guys since they were 15 or 16 years old. So that context is important. What they used to do, can they still do it at that level? Can you project them to do the things that you like at the NBA level? How much can they get better? So any of those moments that these players can have playing in big games and big moments, let alone the experience that they get. I always like talking in the interviews after the NCAAs about guys that make a run and what that was like, because it's a really special time for these student athletes. But it's just part of the evaluation, not the whole thing.
So, Justin, when you came in, back early with Dennis Lindsay, and I think David Morway was there, and it was a really great front office, and we saw we watched it evolve and change ownership, and then move over, and you go to Danny Ainge, and things have changed so much now. How much are you enjoying this, and what are you learning from this process, and what are you able to give to this process? Because it's got to be so uniquely different now than what it was when you signed up with the Utah Jazz back in whatever it was, 2019 or so.
2013 was my first stint here. So, my first, I've been very blessed, Hans and Scotty, to have some unbelievable mentors in my life. First with the agents that I worked apart before I switched sides, and then Kevin O'Connor and Dennis and Danny. And, I owe the beginning of my career to the Millers, who have been unbelievable to me and my family, to this city, this state, and continue to do so. And then for it to be handed off to Ryan Smith, who is equally as diligent and dedicated to the city and the state and this organization. And I wake up every day and I'm just grateful for the people that I get to work with and learn from. And then through the years, I used to be the young guy, and now I'm getting to be the older guy. So I have people that I can share those experiences with and perspective in the league. I think that's what makes Danny and I a great pair. I love his insight and his experience. There's so much I can continue to learn when a guy has literally done every job in the NBA, high level, executive, player, broadcast, coach. And his perspective really helps, my staff and Will, as he grows, to, just give a great perspective as we're working to help build this team. And Ryan's commitment to the team and to us trying to bring something that hasn't happened here with the Utah Jazz, and that's the championship. We wake up thinking every day that that's what we want to do and strive to do. It's just, I wish it was on a quicker timeline, but, delayed gratification, if you're continually making the right decisions to open up a long and prosperous window, that's my first choice. People say, I brought it up, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. It was like, we want to win, but we want to win for a long time. That's the goal.
Well, one of the big pieces that you've put in place that hopefully will be part of this team for a long time is Lauri Markkanen. What are the conversations like? Will that pick up in the summer in terms of putting together an extension for him so that he is a part of this team for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, there's certain rules that I can't go into specifics, Scotty, in hands with NBA rules. But I can just say that Lowry's a very special part of what we're trying to accomplish here. We love him. I'm really happy. I don't want to speak for him, but he seems very happy and content here and with his family, and it's a big priority for us. But he's a huge part of what we're trying to accomplish, and I want him to be a part of it for a long time.
Justin Zanik, general manager for the Utah Jazz, joining Hans and Scotty today. Interesting conversation. JJ, what do you draw from that? Like, did you get some version of solace as a guy who covers the team, and we always try to put ourselves in the position of the fan.
Yeah. He didn't say anything that we didn't know as members of the media, but I think it's really important that the leadership in this basketball organization speaks to and for the fans and connects with them and lets them know what is going on frequently. Doesn't need to be every day.
Right.
But especially right now, after the trade deadline, with everything going on, interviews like this make a big difference because everybody wants to understand and know the plan. I think people here are on board if they understand and know what the purpose is and have trust in the people doing it. But it's hard to do that if you never hear from them. And so for Justin Zanik to come on the radio and take that time and really go into detail about what they're doing, what they're trying to accomplish, what the plan is great. What I really like, from a media standpoint, what I like there is I feel like they have something up their sleeve with the draft. Like they know, they think they know that there are some guys out there that maybe aren't obvious, like in some years, and they realize there is some value in this draft, and they embrace the challenge of going out and finding that Giannis that maybe isn't the number one overall pick, but in a wide open draft like this, there is some talent out there that could end up becoming great.
Let's take a quick break. Well, let's extend this conversation. We'll have a little bit more to talk about around the corner as we get you ready for Jazz basketball starting at 6 o'clock. You'll get Jake Scott, Tim Lacombe, of course, breaking everything down for the Jazz versus the Bulls, who are in town tonight. See if the Jazz can pull off 2 wins in a row. We'll come back. We'll have that discussion plus a couple of the Ben Anderson's mailbag questions that ended up being very, very interesting to see, again, the fans' perspective as to how this team can go forward. So tons going on here. We'll take the break here. More to go. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You know what's coming.
Your daily deep dive into everything Utah Jazz.
It's time.
All season long and even in the off season. It's Jazz Daily with JJ and Alex on your exclusive home of Utah Jazz basketball. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Basketball, gimme the ball because I'm gonna dunk it! Basketball, gimme the ball because I'm gonna dunk it!
All right, welcome back. It is your Jazz Daily segment, although we've been going full-on Jazz this hour because there is a Jazz basketball game tonight. Coming up in less than, just about 20 minutes, you're going to get your pregame started up with the coach and Jake Scott. Jake Scott, Tim Lacombe, always pre-half and post. The call, of course, David Locke and Ron Boone. Injury report. You ready for this? We already know it, but Keontae George is still out with the with the illness. Taylor Hendricks out.
Dang it!
Lauri Markkanen out.
Dang it!
Walker Kessler out.
Dang it!
Is anyone in?
Otto Porter Jr. out. I was going to say, you better not say dang it. Come on. All right, so Taylor Hendricks, Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler, Keontae George. That's all potential starters, obviously. I mean, obviously with Keontae would start, Lauri would start. Walker's been starting some. I think you may have seen him start. I don't know.
Definitely rotation piece.
Certainly going to be getting 20-something minutes, yeah. Taylor Hendricks, the guy who – the more disappointing part of this is now Keontae is going to be – he's going to be back. I mean, this illness I can't imagine is going to last much, much longer. I'm not going to speculate on whatever the illness is. I'm just saying that that's very different than a toe injury where there's a ligament sprain on Taylor Hendricks is going to keep him out at least a week, right?
Yeah.
And so Lauri Markkanen, the quad contused still. Walker Kessler in his foot, no idea, right? I saw Walker Kessler out there in his warm-ups, though, out with the team Monday, getting warmed up, taking some shots, kind of getting loose, and then, but that's what you do. Yeah, that's how you kind of get your rehab going. I don't know. Jazz Bulls tonight, your thoughts before we get into some of these fan concerns out of Ben Anderson's mailbag here.
Well, this is a tough one tonight because we talked about the Jazz current situation, and we know where they're at. We know that winning games is not the priority with this current group, that development is.
Hold on. Did you hear what Justin Zanik said, though? It is. They want them to go out every game and win. So that's what I have a hard time with because you kind of give me a look like, come on.
That's what they say, but I'm not an idiot.
I know, but
I'm not gonna insult our listeners. Like, we know what's going on here. They want to keep that pick. And the other problem is, look, if they rolled out these young players and win, so be it. But the young players aren't available tonight except for Bryce Sensabaugh, right? So this is what I'm getting at is, what is it about this matchup tonight that gets you excited? What would you pay tickets to watch tonight? I would want to see Keontae George.
Listen,
I would want to see Taylor Hendricks. I would want to see Lauri Markkanen.
I will say, here's the bang for the buck because we got it on Monday. JC's going to go for another 30, right?
Okay.
And Colin Sexton's going to be right there with him.
So there you go.
Those are two. By the way,
and Monday was fun, right?
In terms of yes,
were you not entertained Monday?
And in terms of long-term excitement for this Jazz team, I think day on day, Colin Sexton becomes more a part of whatever is going to go on in the future.
Okay.
And so I look at that and go, what's he doing? And by the way, you don't see many guys when Keontae George is on the floor. Maybe this is the only guy, but the hustle from Colin Sexton that you get is on a different level. He looks like it's almost like watching Isaiah Pacheco on get the ball handed off.
He's called Young Bull for a reason,
right? He is like, you're going, oh, that guy's spending some calories here. Like he is turning over here. He is burning it. Let's go. And that's what I look for. Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton, sure. Bryce Sensabaugh,
you're more
sure.
positive than me.
I know, but again, that's because I know that you're going to see JC likely come off the bench. We haven't gotten the starting lineup yet. No. Still haven't seen the starting lineup. It's going to be a wild one. I mean, you heard Justin Zanik say it. He goes,
Lucas Šamanić started the last game.
You're going to see some lineups that you're not used to seeing over the next few days because of how complicated the injury report is. And that's fine. If you're one of those people who's going to the game tonight, Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton. Those are going to be interesting guys to watch. Is Johnny Juzang going to give you another solid 20 minutes? He'll probably be asked to play 12 to 18.
And that's a huge opportunity for him
Sure.
because he's currently on the two-way, and he doesn't get to have the two-way next year. So he's got to prove to not only the Jazz but the entire league that he is an NBA rotational
You can't
player.
do the 10-day contract in your fourth year, third year?
It'd be his third year next year.
Yeah, can't do it.
Nope.
Interesting.
The clock is running. The clock is ticking on guys like Johnny Juzang to go prove that you're an NBA player. And tonight's a night for him to another chance to go out and do that. He had a good night on Monday night, took advantage of his opportunity. I love that about the NBA. Those are the great stories. Is the guys that are on the fringe that are trying to. It's so hard. Think about it. The NBA. There's only 450 players in the world that are on NBA rosters. Only half of those guys are rotational players, and only half of those guys are starters, and only half of those guys are stars.
Right.
If that.
Or get the most minutes or get the most points.
So all of a sudden you get down to there's only so many players in the world that can actually make it. So if you're a player that if you can play 5 to 10 years in the NBA, you're an incredible athlete. So yes, these are great athletes. It's NBA basketball. We'll see them go out and see what they can do. But hopefully that the guys that are playing tonight can put on a show just like they did on Monday night. When you went to Monday night, it was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was fun. Just because
lots of scoring.
I was kind of Debbie Downer, but
Well, I was trying to save face for my kids. Yeah, this is gonna be a great game. Are you kidding? The Washington Wizards? You guys, historic franchise. And they're like, really, Dad? I'm all, absolutely. Gosh, look at them. They just scored 41 points in the first quarter.
defense.
They're
optional.
amazing. Colin Sexton, by the way, 18 and a half points per game this year.
Great.
He does it in 8 fewer minutes than Larry Markkinen.
Uh-huh.
He gets 25 minutes a game, and he scores 18 and a half points. JC gets 5 more minutes a game than he does and scores fewer points. His efficiency's been way up. His three-point shooting has been very good. So,
I think Colin needs to be part of the long-term plan.
Yeah, we're seeing some guys kind of
he needs to be mentioned in the same breath as Lowry as a guy that they really need to figure out how to keep.
Does it make it easier for Jordan Clarkson to not be a part of the future then if Colin Sexton is that guy? Because maybe Colin Sexton ends up being
I think Jordan is in a different place at his age and what he wants to accomplish. As great as Jordan has been here in Utah, that they may owe it to him to give him an opportunity to play for a contender.
Okay. I love how hey, we want you to go to a contender. All right, we'll trade you to some place that can win a championship.
They just did great by look what they did for Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah, and he got extended.
If you're going to trade a guy, to have the class to trade him to a situation where he's going back to Canada where he's beloved and he's going to get the extension that he wants.
Got it. Yeah. All right. Let's see what happens. So, all right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We've got more to go around the corner. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
The hour with our picks for the best and worst moments on today's show. As JJ and Alex want to hear your best and worst of the day.
Wow, Clippers and Rockets firing it up. Nobody in the freaking stands for Houston, by the way, is Dylan Brooks. That was well short on the three-pointer. You hate to see that. Like to see a guy who like to see nice guys like Dylan Brooks do well. Those are your Houston Rockets, by the way, Jeremy.
Mine?
Yes. Oh, you claim them. You will claim them whenever you can. So even if Dylan Brooks takes you to the promised land, you'll act like. Now the good news is, Van Fleet. I love Fred Van Fleet. Dude is like he counters the bad vibes that Dylan Brooks brings to that team.
That's the plan. That's the hope.
Okay. But James Harden back in Houston for I don't know. I mean, at this point, people are like, did he play here? No, but look, when he's playing as well as he is and the Clippers are doing as well as they are, tough to stop that guy.
Remember, he's the playoff key, right, to get in? Trade for him, you're in the playoffs.
Nobody thought for the life of them that he was going to be like, you know what? I'm going to go back to like 18 and a half a game. I'll be that role guy. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, so Kawhi Leonard, like, is still on that team, right? I mean, that's his team. It's Paul George's team before it's your guy, James Harden. So there you go. Best and worst on the program as it gets you ready for the Utah Jazz and the Chicago Bulls coming up at the top of the hour. You've got your pregame. Jake Scott and the coach are going to take over. An incredible selection on Kias, Subarus, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, or Ram is from Doug Smith and the Doug Smith dealerships. The Doug Smith dealerships in American Fork and Spanish Fork. Great service starts with know-how, and nobody knows how like Doug. Hey, Doug. So here's what you got. The Bulls, not really good on the road. That's a good deal, right? 13-17 on the road this year. The Jazz, of course, whether or not you think that gives them a chance or not, their lineup is going to be very interesting. We'll find that out in the next probably 30 minutes or so. Just stay tuned to the pregame. The problem is that, and again, if we're doing best and worst, we're going to stick to that. 3 Jazz players are out with injuries facing the Bulls team. Well, now, hold on. Keontae with the illness. Taylor Hendricks with the toe. No, it's 4. Yeah, 4 Jazz, Walker and Lowry. So 4 guys are out, and four players that you kind of tune in to watch, right, for this team. Dang it. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. But again, I'm just going to go off of what Justin Zanik said earlier in the show, earlier in the day with Hans and Scotty. These guys are asked to go out and win these basketball games. Will Hardy, this young roster, they're going to be asked to try to win. The Bulls are better than the 9-51 or 9-52 Washington Wizards from the other night. So got to watch out for that. I do think that, one thing that was interesting, and Ben Anderson wrote this up on KSLSports.com. You can go and check it out because he answers questions. Somebody asked if the Jazz could try to tank next season since the 2025 draft looks to be a little bit of a better class, which I think is always funny. We're already going, oh, yeah, but a couple guys coming out of that draft. Hey, Bronny Jr. might be in that 2025 draft. The Jazz should draft him. They might get LeBron for a couple seasons here. Come on. You can always hope. And the reality is if you do draft Bronny Jr., then you kind of force LeBron's hand, man. He wants to play with his son. That's the next move for the Jazz.
Terrible move.
Get a very, very aging LeBron James, but pay him $50 million a year still.
Still scoring 15.
He'll score 22 and a half. Yeah. Bronny's not a good basketball player, though. I'll just say he's not as good. Not anywhere near where his dad's level's at. And but that's a tough ask. Nobody is. So there you go. But the answer from Ben was the Jazz are not going to go into next season with plans to tank. They won't do it. 2025, what they'll do is they'll roll out a lineup and they'll see where they're at after what? What did we see this year and last year? You found a lineup that was winning for you. You found a lineup that was working. Tonight is not going to be that lineup because they already figured out, hey, this is not going to be how we get to the promised land here. Instead, let's try to figure out how to get below the Rockets in the standings, and then we'll figure it out. We'll make this thing happen. All right. Jazz basketball coming up here at 6 o'clock, right at the top of the hour. Jake Scott and Tim Lacombe. They're going to get the breakdown here for you. They're going to make sure you have it all ready for you. Mike Smith, of course, joins in that first segment. You don't want to miss it. So stay right here. JJ and I will be back again tomorrow. 97.5 KSL Sports Zone.